Today, he's going to reveal everything you need to know to be successful on Amazon.
You don't have to sell an item. I think the main thing that I would tell myself,
how do you avoid severe competition?
When you're making that purchase, that's when you're going to make your money.
What would you say to somebody in that situation?
And it's much more based on luck. When I'm looking for products, I'm looking for 100% ROI.
What are the top 3 lessons that you would like to share with our audience?
Sticking to it, being consistent with something, that is kind of a recipe for an IP complaint. You will have to get ungated. That'll really help you to understand how Amazon works.
What do you suggest them to do?
That's a great question.
Do you want to find a secret about how you can make money by living anywhere in the world while traveling? In today's video, you'll learn all the secrets from an Amazon seller and how you can start your very own online business. My name is Samuel, and today we have a special guest. His name is Anthony Bodanza. He has been selling on Amazon for over 2 years. Today, he's going to reveal everything you need to know to be successful on Amazon. Let's get to business. What kind of ROI do you suggest people to set for their min price? What about for their min price when people set it? What do you suggest them to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you're making that purchase, that's when you're going to make your money, because you buying that product at whatever price you bought it is going to determine a lot about how you end up selling that product. When I'm looking for products, I'm looking for 100% ROI, but they normally fall within the 50 to 100% range. And because I'm comfortable selling around 50%, that's normally where I'll set my minimum. So normally what I'll do actually is after everything gets shipped in and my inventory lab catches up with BQool, I'll go in and bulk all my new listings that don't have minimum, maximum, and rule. I'll normally put on AI equalizer at a 50% minimum return on investment. And that's how I'll make all my rules. And then I can go back in and tweak that minimum pricing. I can go back in and first tweak the rule to be a little bit more aggressive if it's not selling, to a booster or a maximizer for the sales. And then if it's still not selling, I'm comfortable after about a month, 2-3 months, to drop my ROI down to anywhere from 0 to 15%, just to get my money back out of it so I can go buy something that will be profitable instead of just waiting on the price to come back up.
How do you avoid severe competition, when you're sourcing?
Mm-hmm. A lot of that comes down to looking at the sales rank or the Keep a chart and seeing how often something will sell. Unless Amazon is on the listing or the brand specifically is not, I don't sell anything that I think the brand is on the listing on, because that is kind of a recipe for an IP complaint, which is even worse than harsh competition. Harsh competition, you just sell out at a loss. You don't worry about it. IP complaints can get your account shut down if you get too many of them. So I try to always stay away from items where the brand is selling. But if Amazon is on the listing and they're at a really good profit margin, that's when I might take those risks. It all depends on how often something sells and what the profit margin looks like. My personal rules for buying stuff for Amazon is I'm trying to make 100% return on investment when I buy it. I know that normally after I ship it in, because of stuff that doesn't sell or prices dropping because other people found the same inventory, I'll normally make 60 to 80% of what I think I'm going to make after all the fees are said and done in about the first month and a half. But when I'm thinking about competition, if it's something that sells a lot, I'm willing to go down to 50% return on investment, just because I know that it'll sell. And even if there is a lot of competition, but the sales rank is super low, you'll probably get some of that buy box rotation. And that's where having something like a BQool is really instrumental, because you're able to constantly be repricing. I never have to think about my prices because it's always being repriced for me to match what the buy box should be, which is why, like you said, my buy box percentage is pretty high.
For sports and outdoors, though, because I noticed that you wear a lot of Nike shirts in all your videos. Do you need to get ungated? How does it work?
Subcategories or the different brands, you will have to get ungated. I wasn't gated in any fishing things. Well, some brands I was still gated in, but the more I sold of them, the more I would automatically get ungated, because as Amazon sees that you're selling some fishing products and brands that you're already allowed to sell. If I look at another fishing product that I'm gated in right now, but I've sold $10,000 of fishing products with 0 customer complaints, they might be more likely to let me sell different fishing products. Whereas if I'm trying to get ungated in a grocery category that I've never sold anything, they might still have that gate for me. But if you're talking about Nike and Adidas, the big brands, personally, I still am gated in those. I haven't ungated in them. That's something I'm planning on doing this year by going through the main channel, which is getting an invoice from a distributor of at least 10 units of one of those products, and then getting that shipped into Amazon, and then they'll ungate you that way with a proper invoice. But starting out, if you don't want to go that route or you don't have the capital to go through that route, it'll probably be slower for you. You won't find as many good products because you're limited in the amount of products in a store that you can actually scan and realistically send into Amazon. But you won't have to spend the money to get ungated in it. And there are still going to be enough products for you to find while you continue to get auto ungated, which is what I did for the first ever. I've never applied to get ungated in anything so far using invoices. And I've gotten ungated in some bigger brands like Under Armour. I sell a lot of Columbia Sports and Outdoors, I saw a decent amount of. So you can get ungated in these bigger brands. It just takes a lot longer and it's much more based on luck.
Many people are a bit scared to start their Amazon business. What would you say to somebody in that situation? And what would your suggestion be?
My suggestions changed a little bit over the past couple of weeks as I've been talking more with my wife and like trying to think a little bit bigger than just being in the weeds of my business. And it can be really hard to want to start, but kind of the motivation for that is if you start something, it's so much easier to have it move in the right direction because it's already moving. Like once you get a ball rolling, you can kind of squat it to one side or the other and it's going to continue to roll just in a new direction. It's so much harder to actually get that ball rolling. And one of the ways that my wife has been talking to me, because she's a runner, she runs a lot. And there's some days like you're just tired, you don't want to run. And so what she tells herself is, I'm going to put on my running clothes. I don't have to run, but I'm going to put on my running clothes. And if then I don't want to run, then I won't run. And so every time that she puts on the running clothes, though, she realizes, hey, this is something that I enjoy. This makes me feel better. I'm getting fitter. Like these are the goals that I want in life. And so once she puts the running clothes on and like kind of gets in that space, she'll always go and run. She hasn't missed a run. She's so disciplined. I am not. I need to work on that. But in the Amazon world, when it comes to that, if you're just wanting to get started, you can start with the free Amazon plan. It's not technically free, but the individual seller plan on Amazon, you don't pay anything up front. You pay $1 for every time you sell something. So if you get that individual plan and then you download the app on your phone, you don't have to pay anything unless you sell an item. And you don't have to sell an item. So if you download that and then you go to a store or you go online and you start looking for products, at least getting in that space, not even necessarily doing it, you'll probably find some opportunities. Or if it's not right for you, you'll find out that you don't like it and then you'll move on to a new opportunity, having tested it out more fully and not trying it all.
I love your analogy of your wife, like putting on the running clothes. If you could go back in time and tell your 18-year-old self something, what would that be?
I think the main thing that I would tell myself is that it's probably going to take a little bit more consistency than you think to get to the places that you want to go, specifically thinking about like business and personal finance things, especially being 18. I remember back then, I did not really have a good knowledge or foresight about what the future would look like. Not even just like, oh, what is my life going to look like? But like tangibly, what does 1 or 2 years from now actually feel like? Because it's not as long as I would have thought back then. And there were some projects that I had started that if I would have continued with them, I think would be really successful right now. But because it didn't work after 3 or 4 tries, after like maybe 2 months, I was like, I've tried this forever. I got to be done. So really having an attitude that things that are worth it are probably going to take a little bit of time. Obviously understanding that pouring a lot of money into something isn't necessarily the best if it's not giving you a reward, but putting a little bit more of your time, especially if you didn't have a lot of money, like I didn't have a lot of money, will definitely be good for you. So sticking to it, being consistent with something, and being consistent with something, not for 2 weeks and thinking you're consistent, but consistency over 1 quarter, 6 months, or a 12-month period. And you'll look back over that time and see how much has changed.
So if someone is starting an Amazon business right now and it's quite saturated, there's 2.5 million sellers, what would you advise them right now?
If you're specifically doing online or retail arbitrage, it's going to take a lot more consistency of you sourcing, like scanning more products or doing more searches. And if you're like using tactical arbitrage, something like that, it's going to take a lot more in-depth work to get started and find those first products, especially if you're just getting started, because you don't even really know what to look for. Whereas someone who's maybe been doing it for 6 months or 12 months will realize they don't have to scan that product because they've seen that brand before. And they've scanned 3 different items from that brand and none of them have been on Amazon. So they're not going to scan that brand anymore. Whereas that brand over there, they definitely know that it will have some listings. Half of them are profitable, half of them aren't. So they're going to scan every single one of that brand's listings just to see if they'll find it. So my biggest advice always for people starting out, especially when they say, hey, I can't find anything, and they're in like a generally bigger city, I'm like, just pick an aisle, any aisle, and scan every single product. Like don't miss any products. Like the only reason that you'd miss it is like if Amazon says you're restricted from selling that brand, like maybe skip that, but scan every single product because you'll either find profitable products, and 9 times out of 10, you'll probably find at least one thing that's profitable. That's like 50 to 100% ROI. But more importantly, you'll learn so much about what sourcing for Amazon looks like experientially, because there are things that you're just going to learn from experience that you'll never learn from watching somebody do it or listening to somebody talk about it.
Which part of the Amazon job can you outsource? And then which part do you need to do yourself?
I personally do everything myself, unless we're talking about like virtual outsourcing with softwares. You can do everything with just like the Amazon seller app and seller central dashboard. But I personally never have sent in a shipment just like that, just because that's just so much work and time that you're gonna have to spend that you wouldn't if you were to spend $100 to $150 a month on specific products. And then almost all these have free trials anyway. So if you don't know if it's gonna work for you, almost everything has a 14 to 30 day free trial. And like if you think you're ready for that product, don't just like buy it, get the free trial. Like why would you not do that? But for outsourcing your Amazon business, there's really a couple things that you have to do on Amazon, and you can really outsource everything and just manage it from the top if you want to. Personally, I wouldn't do that because I don't want to have to manage that many people. I like having the freedom of doing whatever I want without having to answer to anybody either above me as a boss or below me as an employee who's relying on me for responsibility. But sourcing products, you can outsource. You can have people who go into stores or search online or virtual assistants, shipping or preparing products, so getting them either sent to you and then hiring someone locally or a warehouse or something to like prepare the products, take the stickers off, put the new Amazon labels, or getting a prep center, which is something that I'm diving into as I'm doing online arbitrage, buying stuff not by going into Ross there, but going into actual stores or going online and then getting all of that shipped to a prep center who for a fee will do all of my products for me and ship them into Amazon. And I won't ever have to touch any of those products at that point. And then repricing is something that I would probably first outsource, because the other two things are really important, I think, to kind of get experiential knowledge, and even repricing at the very beginning, because you'll be able to see how pricing works on Amazon so that you can manipulate the rules in whatever software, probably BQool, because I think it's the best, that you use in order to reprice for you. But I'd say the first thing that you probably want to get is going to be like an inventory lab, so that you don't have to list everything through Seller Central because it's a little more difficult. And that also has something that helps you to source Scoutify too, because getting some of those apps makes your life way easier than just using the Amazon app. Then the second thing would probably be a repricer once you have 30 to 50 listings. And then last, you might want to do like a prep center. And the kind of tiers that you go up in terms of what you want to outsource will increase with how much money you're making in the business or how much money you just have to start the business out front. But doing those first couple of things, sourcing, prepping, shipping into Amazon, and repricing, that'll really help you to understand how Amazon works so that you can be a better outsourcer about it and get the right things for you or the right people hired on your team.
For our audience, like how much sales should you make before you incorporate your business, or when should you incorporate your business, or is it even needed? Yeah.
It's not needed. The reasons that I would say to incorporate at the very beginning are either like, one, you're really risk averse and like that makes you feel so good. Two, you have a lot of personal assets outside of the business that if anything happens on your Amazon business, you don't want them to be able to pierce the corporate veil. And like if you just start off as a sole proprietorship and you sell like one bad product or have one really bad customer or something happens and you get sued, like, and you have this massive independent wealth over here, that can get sucked up by Amazon. So you definitely want to shield that with an LLC at the beginning. I don't have a personal like amount that you'd want to get incorporated. Definitely, if you're being able to pull out about $40,000 to $60,000 in like actual take-home profit, because then you'll want to make sure that you're not paying so much in self-employment tax. But up until that point, I just kind of got to the point where my business could comfortably pay all the fees for that, and it felt like it was the right time to actually incorporate as a business. And so that actually turned out to be probably about 3 months into my selling on Amazon after I'd sold about $25,000 or $30,000.
Recently, you shared 24 lessons. What are the top 3 lessons that you would like to share with our audience?
That's good. Yeah. And so for that, I turned 24. So I wanted to share like some parts of my life as well as 24 lessons. First one has to do with someone who's constantly questioning things, because I get all the time so many questions. And I say sometimes you just need to start doing something, but not with a lot of risk. Like you can just start kind of like we talked about earlier, where you just download the app and start to look for products. But you'll learn really fast that you have kind of 3 categories of questions. One category of questions are questions that just don't matter at all. When you actually get into doing things, they're kind of you'll realize this doesn't actually mean anything or do anything. The second is questions that are going to get answered very quickly by actually doing something, because you'll be like, oh, how does this work? And then because you're doing it, you'll have to automatically figure it out, and you won't have time to question it. You'll have already figured out the problem and the solution to it. And then the third category of questions are those that you think you understand, but it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the less you know, the more you think you know, and then you start to realize that you don't know anything, and then you actually get some mastery. But those are the questions that you really only understand 10% of, and then you'll be able to actually find the correct questions, and then you'll be able to figure out the right questions to ask to get the answers that you actually need to move forward.
That's awesome. Like for me, one of the things you talk about was like inertia. having
Yes.
inertia. So you keep moving. And then once you start moving, it's harder to stop. So that really resonated well with me. Thanks, Anthony, for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did you learn something today? Save this video and rewatch it anytime. I hope you enjoyed all the useful tips from Anthony. Go and subscribe to his channel, and also don't forget to subscribe to BQool as well. And if you're looking for the best Amazon repricer, check the link below and try out BQool for a 14-day free trial, which will help you boost your sales to the next level on Amazon. For more videos like these, check out these other videos. I'll see you in our next video.